Hello. Hello, hello, everyone. Today, we're gonna look at some Carl 2D stuff. So, you know, I have my 2D game making library that I'm making, sort of based on Raylib-ish, but getting more and more different, but it will be written natively in Odin, so that you don't have to have C code, call into C code everywhere in your game, you know. So we have, for example, this minimal thingy here with this picture of a cat, and it says hello. You know, that's just stuff like this. It loads an image, and there's a main loop, and it draws some text and stuff. What I was thinking was that maybe the text support isn't fantastic yet. So I was thinking if maybe we should try using font stash. I'm not saying that's what we will use in the end for this, but we can try. Let's see how it works. I tried font stash, it was broken. It's the first. Well, we'll see. I have no people who used it, so there's a port in the vendor folder, an Odin port, so you don't have to. Well, maybe that's the one you mean. I don't know. Let's try. Let's just try to figure out what happens. So we have in the Odin folder here, we have the vendor folder here, right? And in there is a font stash folder, and this is an Odin implementation of it. And what font stash does, like it's originally a C library, but it does say specialized for nano VG, which is a bit whoa, calm down, which is a bit, yeah, maybe we will make our own version, because I don't think it should be that tricky. Well, okay, it is not an easy problem to solve, because there's several things, but I think I could do it, because it's essentially you need to bake sort of an atlas, and you need to read the font, but the font reading maybe we will use STB TrueType for. What was wrong with it when you tried, Jacob? Hello, G-Coder. Anyways, so what it does, it sort of, you can tell it that hi, I want to draw some text, and then it will make font atlases for you, so that you're not bound to using a specific font atlas. No, so you're not bound to using like a pre-cooked one. So you can like just say, I want to draw this Unicode character, and it sort of put it into the atlas and goes. Hello B. Anyways, so what we're gonna try here is to, like, maybe we'll just disable this cat picture thing here. So we just have this, it says hello here, and let's see what happens if we try to use the font stash stuff. So add font path isn't supported. Yeah, you need to have. Anyways, yeah, we'll try. Maybe there are some weird issues. The nice thing about it is that it's written straight in Odin, so I can probably, you know, fix. I mean, this is all there is, right? There is like this file here, which is not much, but it's just, how many lines of code is this? 1,000 lines of code for a like online. They call it online font baking, but the online word here just means that it's doing it on the fly, not that there's nothing online on the internet about it. So we can draw text. by going, well, you saw here how to draw text. You can say draw text hello p. Currently it doesn't, there's all this text drawing currently is sort of, I just hacked it in and it's not done completely as it should be, and it doesn't support, like, it just uses the code point as a index, which won't work unless you start at index 0, and you know it's not proper yet. But let's try just hacking this in for starters. I have no idea how to use this, but I'm just gonna assume that I know. I'm just gonna pretend I know. I guess you run init. What is the quad location? Bottom left, top. Is top left or bottom? I'm a top left. So yeah. Thunder says ASCII for the win. Well, if you want to make a game creation library where you can make games that have support localization, then I mean you're forced to do something more than ASCII. But yeah, I did try loading a font that had Chinese characters in it, and I was able to draw it with some. I was able to draw some glyphs from there using what I currently have, but. So we have that text there. Jakob asks, "You're Swedish, right? You live in Stockholm?" No, yes, I'm Swedish, but I don't live in Stockholm. Not too far away, but you know, maybe 40 minutes away from Stockholm. Yeah. So what we'll do here is we'll try to init this thing. Maybe we can look at an example. Maybe there's some. Let me try to find because this is a port, right? So this is the fonts. This is the original C library, like this. So maybe there is some nice little example here we can just look at, and it should be roughly the same. So here it draws line key, blah blah blah. Okay, that's for when you press keys in the window. Okay, so what you would do is GL fonts create. So that's their GL render, which I won't need, I think. So let's just try the init stuff here, because that, I guess, is I think this GL fonts create here does the it probably does the I don't know, but let's just go down here, and we will maybe put it here. We will import the things first. Import font stash. Oh yeah, Jakob, you try to put a link. I see if you get stuck on the other one. Yeah, you can't put links in the chat. It only works for the person who is doing the live stream. Okay, so I have font stash there. We can go to state and we add like font stash context. Biggie bing yourself. He wants me to eat iron pills. We don't need that right now. Doing the programming. fs.font context, I guess you do like that. And then you go to init again. So we just put this in for now. And also OLS is broken. So the width and height there is probably the width and height of the atlas, I would assume. Let's just try throwing in something like 1024, 1024. Quad location is your quad start in the top left or the bottom left corner? Let's say top left. And it might very, I don't think 1,000 lines of code is that much. Maybe I will port this thing and make it like put it into a file inside the library itself, because maybe it does more things than I need and stuff. But that's easy since it's written in Odin already. Okay, does that work? Well, it's good if you correctly type. Maybe it did work. Yeah, it did work. I was broken, not on stash, right? So that call worked. And then at shutdown, we'll destroy it. Sure. So, he said in a very Swedish way, so. And then I guess you have to, like if we look at this example again. In this example, you add a font. Okay, let's do that. Add font. You can add a font mem or a font path. Let's try throwing in our default font there. It's roboto.ttf. Well, we actually have. Let's do this. Like that. That should still work, right? Yes. This, what hashtag load here does is that it loads it at compile time, and then like this thing here will be a slice of byte. So essentially have type U8. So it lives inside the executable or the compiled code. But I'll just use it up here in init, because that's one that my current font system uses, which I might not need, but we can keep that there for now. Hello, Christopher. Now I'm not a game really right now. I'm making more of a 2D game creation library. So similar to Rayleigh, but written in Odin itself. So you can make games in Odin, in 2D games in Odin, without having to have like an extra, like a dependency on a C library everywhere, kind of. Right. So we can then do fs.add font mem. Name, I guess is this a name as in, what do you mean by name? Does it have anything to do with the get font by name? Okay, you can fetch it by name. Oh well, maybe you can just put roboto And then you need the data. Then we say roboto font. What do I call it? Font data. A 3D version of this would be sweet, but also probably a massive undertaking. Yeah, but also I don't think 3D game creation libraries work that well. Like, I think if you're doing 3D, you're very likely to need... Well, of course, it can be fun for learning, which is, with Raylib they have 3D, but if you compare Raylib 2D and Raylib 3D, it's big difference in how production ready it feels. Like, you can use Raylib 2D to ship a game. Using Raylib 3D to ship a game without having to modify Raylib itself is... I tried using Raylib 3D for doing something, and I almost, like, the first week I had to, like, start porting things over into Odin and modify them, and that which is of course fine. Maybe that's how it should be. Like, you just get like a starting point. But anyways, it's you can in 3D you can make as many assumptions as with 2D, because in 2D, like, okay, you can just have an atlas with textures, for example, and then you can draw like rectangles. Your meshes are all just rectangles. In 3D, it's like, okay, a mesh can be anything. So batching isn't as obvious how to do. Maybe you can need to do instancing, but then it's like, okay, what is it that we want the person that used the library to do? And then you tend to go more into much more custom shading approaches in 3D for some reason quicker. Like, yeah, it doesn't have to be like that way, but yeah, I think it's a good idea to stay at 2D, but we'll see. Maybe I would change my mind suddenly. Why didn't I find this one? Freeloaded data. What does that mean? Optional init with ASCII characters and a wanted size. What do you mean optional? There's no option to do that. Yeah, it's if you're using Raylib or 3D, you want, like, okay, so maybe a good reason for supporting 3D in this would be that when you use Raylib in 3D, if you use it in C, then you can quickly maybe modify it. But it's not like in C, for example, or C++, you will usually have a pre-compiled library anyways. But in Odin, if you had you ship the library as source code and you find things you don't like the way they work, then it's easier to change them, because Odin libraries are usually easier to change. Of course, I think this is one of the reasons why these STB style single header libraries. Yeah, this one. Preload where the font cleanup cause delete on the slice. Yeah, you can't delete the slice because it's loaded at it's loaded with #load, so it's not allocated. Do you prefer STL3 or Sokol for 3D? I haven't used the STL3. You mean STL GPU in STL3? Because I mean STL also has STL render, which is sort of a bit like Raylib, that you can do like to draw 2D textures on screen, and it's quite easy. But STL GPU is but yeah, I haven't used it, but I use Sokol. I don't know. I haven't used any of them enough to be like, this is the best. I know Randy, the game dev YouTuber guy. He uses Sokol for his 2D games, and he really likes it. So use Sokol with Odin and stuff. So let's so here. So okay, so we've done this. Add font normal. int. Okay, it's just this is the len of the CTX of font. So this is some kind of probably some kind of ID for the font. How do we draw text then later? Yield fonts, blah, 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 blah. Set font. Is that a set font? Okay, so you do it like, is it like stateful a bit? Okay, let's, I guess add font mem doesn't set the font. No, that would be a bit silly actually if it did. Set, let's just set it here just to get going. Like typing s.fscon. fs blah, blah, blah. State. To that, go here. Set font. Like that. Okay, size. There is a size by default, so maybe we can ignore that for now. Okay, what do you do then? Then you say draw text. What's it called? Get glyph. There's no draw. Here it's called draw text. So I'm looking at the C example because there's no... Wait, maybe there was an example with this one. No? So I'm just looking at the C example. Reset atlas, line bounce. How do I... Wait, maybe I'm thinking... Oh yeah, of course, the draw thing is for doing the GL stuff, I would assume. So what I would do is just fetch glyphs and be happy. Get glyph, okay, where's that used? Get glyph index. It has to be one of those. Text iter, push state, pop state, clear state, set size, blah 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 blah. Text iter init. You know, this would be good with a little example for this one. Okay. So there's this clear state thing here, right? But I don't need to do that. I don't need to push the state. Okay, let's see. Maybe we just do this, text iter init with our string. I'm just... Yeah, there may be some usage code in nano VG, maybe. That's right. Oh, that's true. This becomes like a nice... Thank you. That's a good idea. Font stash. Font context. You init it. Good, good. Add font path mem. Reset. Blah, blah, blah. Font face. Okay. Flush text texture. Okay. Here it seems to do some stuff. Flash text atlas. Draw text icon. Well, that sounds like writing a icon using text. Here you go. That's the size. Okay, let's put that guy over there. Yeah, nano VG. What is it? Nano VG. Anti-alias 2D vector drawing library on top of GLF UI visualization. I guess, and this is sort of like a Odin port of it. There are a few libraries inside the thing called vendor, where you have C libraries that someone has just done a source port of. A micro UI is immediate mode UI. I think there's micro UI. Yeah, and this is also a source port, because the guy who made the micro UI RXI also programs a lot in Odin, so there appeared sort of a Odin port of it there. Because right, the micro UI is originally in C, I think. I might be wrong about that, but so let's look at this text proc here. That'd be good. I'm gonna ignore most of these things because I think they have default values. We just want to draw some text. We're gonna comment all this crap out. The program still runs. It's always good that the program runs. Like, that was not a joke. I meant just like you do things in incremental steps. I did the init, I did things, and hopefully now we can do something interesting here. So let's do the iter equals fs.text iter init. Yeah, we can do this. X times scale, whatever. We just do post.x, post.y, toss in the text, the color I ignore for now. Okay. Oh, and then this will probably be quite easy, because this stuff I can probably do. Well, we're gonna have to. I realize we might have one tiny problem here, that we're gonna of course have to fetch the. We're gonna have to upload the atlas to the GPU. That we haven't done. Which this of course will not work, but let's see if we can get little rectangles on the screen or something for the text first. Whatever. s.fs. I messed up my namespace there. For fs.text iter next. Text iter next. Fs iter q. So we need one of these fancy guys. fs.quad. And then we have a loop there, right? And then, I mean, we could log info q, see what that is. What fun stuff do we have here? Well, it seems to be doing something already. Here, see, it's puking out quads here. We should probably get that texture uploaded to the GPU, because this would be very anticlimactic. But I also will need some kind of way to update the texture, which I haven't. So this will be a good. We'll need to do several things here. What does text iter init do? Does it like because it has the text, right? And then the next gets the quad. I'm gonna assume that get glyph adds things to the atlas. Get glyph index. If it's 0, then it gets the font and blah blah blah. Wait, yes, here. If find free spot for a rectangle. Okay, this is if. Okay, here is the lookup tables. Because it needs to look up where the glyph is. I think so. An interesting thing with Unicode here, right, is that Unicode code points is a very long, I think it's a 32-bit number, so you can't just use the index, because then you would need like 4 gigabytes of RAM for your array of thing. Like you would need a lot of memory just to store like essentially need to map, the code point, which is the rune here. We need to map. That's a 32-bit number. We need to map that to like where have I put this in the texture, because that's what Atlas is, right? You have a little texture where your letters are there, and then you go like, where. If you just use the code point as an index, then it's like, okay, for English maybe okay, but then you have some Chinese character that's on 29,000, and like, oh well, yes, we have to have 29,000, and then someone uses an emoji, and it's like, I don't even know, maybe it's a 200,000 or something. It's not gonna be good. So I think the lookup table here does some funny stuff. I'm not exactly sure what it does, but I think it splits it up into, I'm gonna guess that it splits it up into ranges somehow. Yeah, somehow it can find its way into the glyphs list here quickly. There's some smarties going on here. What is the hash into? Okay, it throws in some numbers there, because it obviously uses this one for something. How about using a map with code point? Well, then you get I guess that's what this one is. What is this one actually doing here? Because if you just use a map, then you have to do a sort of a map search for each code point. Imagine a long string and then you have a very big list of code points. Then it might get slow. What is this thing doing here? Glyph.next. There are several different ways to do it. I'm not exactly sure. What is the lookup table here? The LUT. Is it just using... Okay, but what does... Because it starts at that one. And then it's sort of like a linked list. Almost, right? Next. Svantlen H. Not completely. I have to look at this a bit more just to understand how it's working. Welcome, Sean, and thanks for joining my Discord. If anyone wants to join the Discord server, there is a link in the description. It's like you can talk about Odin, about game dev and stuff in there. It's all fun. It's I originally started it when I made my cat and onion game in Odin, but then it's also because I have my Odin book, which by the way is on sale for one more day. It's something here just above me on the screen, the URL. It's on 25% sale, so you can get it for like $15 plus maybe a tiny bit of VAT if you live in the EU. Anyways, it's the server. You have like cat and onion things, Odin book things, and now they're called 2D things, and maybe I should have a channel for my binding generator or something. But then there's people also showing their own stuff. It's like it's kind of becoming like a tiny bit like an alternative community for Odin things, but I also want it to be sort of a game dev place, so not everyone in there is using Odin, because I think I'm sort of game dev person. Anyways, so what I've heard some people do in this case is that they split. If you have maybe your ASCII characters, like a bunch of characters between 0 and 127, and then you have maybe you load a bunch of characters in a very high code point number. So then you split it up into several ranges, and you can look for which range to iterate through in turn. But this one seems to use some kind of lookup table. Hello, Medi. I'm trying to use I'm trying to use font stash to render text on the fly without having to pre-allocate or well pre-create a font atlas sort of, because currently my old code did this and it just sort of fetched a font atlas thingy from that I created with, what's it called, STB true type. Right. Anyways, that's not so important right now. What I want to look at is if iter.previous glyph index is 1, cannot retrieve glyph. Okay, I'm not sure about that. Transform point. Okay, so C here, what is that? Okay. That's part of nano VG, isn't it? That's not very important. Because we just get, okay, so this thing here has the quad, the x0, x1, inf scale, blah blah blah, state.xform. That's also some nano VG stuff. So what we'll do is just, I think, what we can do with this is actually this. We can just do just like we did down here, draw texture ex. We will, because this one draws each glyph as a texture, separate texture code. So we can try doing that. Then of course we have no texture yet. Let's try drawing the little quads on the right place. Draw, because what does draw texture ex do? That's all this, and then this batch vertex, draw rect. Okay, let's try drawing the rectangle to start with. Okay, so we need a rectangle. R is, it should be at pos.x, pos.y. And then the size should probably be, what is this quad thingy? Right, x0, y0, s0, t0, x1, y1, t1, t. s0, s1, s. Okay. That looks like, hello Marcus, any plans for another Odin game jam? Maybe sometime. Maybe sometime. Cause it would be fun, right? X, Y, U, V. Right. X, Y, U, V. Okay, so S and T. Okay, that's the size. But why does it have... Yeah, maybe all of it is. Maybe I should do like this. Maybe you're right. Maybe we should do like Q dot. We can just do x1 minus Q dot x0 and then Q dot y1 minus Q dot y0. And then we put R here and we do R. You see, I'm so used to Raylive that I sometimes type RL. Yeah, maybe we can do a little, like you said, maybe we can do a little Raylib, no, a little Carl 2D game jam. Ah, of course. Okay, yeah. You have the position here. So what you need here is actually, Maybe you should have q.x0 q.y0 there, because this thing transforms then and moves it forward as it iterates the thing. Well, that looks like might be something, because it's hard to see, because we can do like this, maybe fs.set size s.fs. What font size did we? 32, I think we used. Yeah, that looks like something. Like it looks like it's drawing something. Plus 15 maybe. Let's make it even bigger. 64. Well, we have a font size. Whatever. Let's try this. Hello B. You can almost see the text. It's sort of doing the right thing already. You can almost see that it's... I can push it down a bit more. It is an H and the E is a bit smaller, so with the... And then the L, L, O, P sticks down, E is here, exclamation mark. That's what the text said. Cool. Why am I not using font size here, by the way? Is this like you need to do like that to get it to the baseline? Okay, and then we can go into the minimal and we can change this to 64 instead. It says either Hello P or college. Correct. Okay. Now we need a texture on the GPU, because now we need to draw the texture, but the problem is that we need to update the texture. What does render text here do? Get text, font images. Render create texture. Yeah. Then there's of course a renderer in here where it sort of does the create texture. I guess it's this one. Blah 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 blah. Okay. Yeah, we should probably do a game. Maybe we can do one. Maybe I'm moving in the 1st of December. So either I'll have to do one sooner before that. Like, and then it's like within a month, or it's like I'll do a Christmas jam again or something. We'll see. Right, so the problem here is that this, I think, text iter next, I think this thing will, that's what I was looking before. I think get glyph will add things to the atlas, right? It might expand the atlas and then add a rect, or it might do this and then render glyph bitmap into that. So you see this renders into the thing. And then it says, okay, how do I know if it updated the atlas? Res is a glyph. That's my next question. How do I know? Text. Oop. I guess there might be, well, let's look at the font stash, the context. Texture data. Actual pixels. Dirty rectangle for the texture region that was updated. So what this means is that you can, Yeah, you can use a callback, but I guess you could just check the dirt direct also. Let's try this. I don't like callbacks, so I'd rather just... I'm gonna assume that you see at the start here, it's like, okay, this is a rectangle, so it's x, y, and then the size. Or no, this is a rectangle in... it's probably x0, y0, and then it's where it ends, which is the same if it starts up in the left corner. But so it gets bigger and bigger, but then it stays the same because, you know, it's no longer... It's done. It's when it says drawn, it wants all those characters added to the atlas already. Dirty rect. Right here it updates the dirt direct. Let's just check if there's a way to reset it. You reset the atlas. That's not what we want to do. Dirt direct reset. Right. True when the dirty rectangle is valid and needs a texture update on the GPU. Right, that sounds like what we want to do. So what do we do then? Then we feed it in a pointer to a fixed array. This will give us a dirt direct. Says true if it is, and then it resets it. So that's what we need to do. We need to call validate texture at the some place. I'll probably do it in my draw call thingy. Right. So let's go to the draw call. I think there's a function called draw, and now we're probably gonna have to do some. It might work if we just upload it once, but it's not gonna be possible to modify it later. So we can add that a bit afterwards. What is it called? Draw. Yeah, I know, but what's the present? Not present. There's I lost my procedure. All right, so we go straight, draw current batch goes straight into the render backend. When does draw current batch happen? Right, draw current batch happens so that, you know, it does automatic batching. Batching is sort of like, if we have a better example like this bunny mark here, you know, this thing, which is also an array-lib example. This uses very few batches because we can actually launch this with RenderDoc. So that's always fun. Always fun to launch RenderDoc. Let's launch RenderDoc. Where does this take us? There. Let's go into the bunny mark. We launch that. Yeah, whatever. Allow, cancel, doesn't matter. Then we do this and we do some of that. We do a lot. This will probably be a few draw calls now because the batching has a limited size of how many things. Let's see if this works. So here you see what it does. It starts with a white canvas, then it draws. Okay, apparently my batches can fit almost 50,000 of these guys. So all these are drawn in one go, and then all those, and then the final. That's 3 draw calls, right? So it will, but it's only like it can only auto batch things if, you know, they share texture, which these do. They all use this bunny texture, or if they if essentially what I'm saying here is like if you change which texture you're using, or you change the scissor rect, or you change which shader or which camera, then those are all things that go in information that the draw call needs, because it's like where in the world are we looking, that will offset everything that's drawn. But at the end of the day, what it means is that it's things that are fed into the shader. If this is the default shader, and this is is like this there is like the texture here, and then there's the MVP matrix here, which contains the camera transformation and stuff. And the scissor rect is just because that's more of that doesn't go into the shader, but it goes into the rendering pipeline. So you can sort of see why changing one of these things, camera or stuff, would break up your draw call. Anyways, long story short, when a good time to update this is maybe just before the draw call, because then it might have tried to say, oh, we're gonna draw all these textures, but it hasn't actually told the GPU yet. So just before this here, we can be like, if fs.validate texture, and then we can say font. And by the way, we will of course support multiple fonts in this way, but it's right now we're just hard-coded to one font that I've loaded, but that's just, and there'll probably be a default font. Like if you just say draw text, maybe something default happens, because these kind of libraries are good for quickly getting up and running. I want this library to, Raylib is good. You can ship to the games with Raylib quite easily. It does have some issues with shipping, like there's a bit too many dependencies, I think. Like you go into the C, going from Odin into C code is already, like when you want to debug it, you have to rebuild it as a debuggable library and replace it. And then it goes into GLFW, and then you can't port it to some platforms because maybe that platform doesn't support OpenGL or something like that. It's a bit of a Raylib. You can absolutely ship games with it, but I wouldn't say it's more of like quick and easy get going, and also to learn about how to do game programming. But I would like something that is almost as easy to get into as Raylib, but that really tries to be like not get you into trouble when you want to ship the game, when you want to put it on Steam and be done with it. Like having weird problems, like with Raylib, maybe you had weird problems with like how does DPI scaling work on different platforms, and then that ended up inside GLFW. So it was like I was in C and then GLFW. Like if it was just one Odin library where almost everything happened, and then even if there's a bug in the library, I can easily fix it still. But yeah, font dirty rect is that one, and then we say s.fs, and then we say font dirty rect. I think this will work. We'll see if there are any of those problems that this Jakob in the chat talked about. If we get any problems with weird offsets and stuff. But this code is simple enough that I can probably copy it into my own and modify it and make it into what I want. Hello, Jelmer. I think you're from my Discord server. I recognize your picture. Welcome. So we have the font dirty rect. So that looks weird. Why is it 2-2? Wait, something's wrong. Oh, I'm in the wrong was in the wrong sample. Right, draw text. Let's remove this logging here. So you see now we get It's a bit funny. We get two. I would assume we'd only gotten one. Oh, why is there 2 draw calls here? It clears, draws text. Interesting. Let me just quickly. Not rad deep. Wrong program. What is it called? RenderDoc. Let me just quickly RenderDoc that. Okay. The funniest thing, RenderDoc's UI is a bit like wow. And then for some reason, RenderDoc does not have a proper icon. It's never had. I think it's very funny that it's so easy to fix that, but it never had a proper icon. Now it's like a Firefox icon. Sometimes it's like, yeah, it's very funny. But it works perfectly. I mean, the program is like, it works fine, but it doesn't have a proper icon. Chili says that Raylib can get the scaling right when you open on 2 different. The DPI stuff in Raylib, I put in some pull requests when I shipped Cat and Onion to fix some of that on Windows. I think it's. What I ended up doing is I turned off the high DPI scaling in Raylib and just do it myself. And because according to people in the Raylib Discord, the DPI scaling, the high DPI mode that you can set in Raylib is actually not like, it's sort of like you're supposed to use it for when you do, like when you have a program that you like quick and dirty want to get working, but what you should do is have it disabled and do it yourself manually. Yelmer asks, I'm excited for Call to I like the 4. That sounds like looks like a German 4. I'm excited for Call 2D. Do you accept contributions for it? I'd like to contribute after I get some more experience. Not currently. We'll see. This library I'm gonna be very. We'll see. I need to get maybe it up and running on Linux and make another backend for it and stuff, and then when that is done, then we can start looking. I think contributions are usually I'll try to do the overall architecture, but if there's like a feature that is broken on a platform or something like those things, I would probably like contributions for, because it's easy. Like if it becomes like, I added a whole platform, like it's very hard to review giant pull requests. But yeah. But thank you. You'll be welcome to contribute when it's more ready. I probably when it's done, that like maybe when I have a Windows version and a Linux version, maybe a Mac version, but I don't have a proper Mac, so maybe I would need help with that. But at the same time, it's hard for me to review a whole platform added in a pull request, so I'm not sure exactly how to do that. But once maybe I have Windows and Linux at least, maybe I would do like a beta version, like please test it then. But I also want to do a web version, because a fun thing about, since Odin has the WASM stuff built like working nicely, if I just do a WebGL renderer or a web GPU renderer, whichever one I'll end up doing, I can do a true web version, not like this, no mscript and stuff. That I'm actually quite excited about that. The only stuff in Raylib, I use the high DPI for when I'm in dev mode. So when I'm doing the dev executable, that's just because that just ended up being how it was easiest for me. When I'm doing that, I use the high DPI mode because that's how I started doing it. But then I realized that on different platforms. It just doesn't behave properly in Linux and Mac especially. Or maybe it was Linux, maybe it was Mac, I don't remember which. And then what I ended up doing, because it wasn't working so good, was I just, in the release build, I just disabled high DPI. And I mean, it's a pixel art game. I just, everything is just scaled up nearest neighbor anyway, so works fine. Yeah, no Emscripten would save my life. Yeah, Emscripten it's a hack. I mean, it's cool that it works. Emscripten is cool, but if you can avoid it, then please try to avoid it. Funder's asking, I've been wondering about that WebGL stuff. Can I target only web and ship on desktop somehow? Yes, I think, I'm not exactly sure how it works. There is a web GPU, well, not WebGL, but web GPU. You can make a web GPU context that somehow works with, there is in the Odin examples, like there is a web GPU. Let's show you. github.com. In here, Odin Lang examples, there is a WGPU. And then you have a GLFW triangle. This one, I mean, main here, if you look at it, what it does, it sets up a web GPU stuff, blah, 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 web GPU surface, blah, blah, blah. Here's a shader. Then it does stuff, but there's only one GPU backend here. There's no direct 3D, no OpenGL version. And then it uses GLFW to create on desktop. It uses WFW, this thing, GLFW. And we'll see if it does anything special. I'm not exactly sure how it does the get surface instance. Okay. Yeah. Somehow it works. There is a inside the vendor inside the WGPU, there is a GLFW glue folder package. But anyways, this one works on web. You see, this is it builds on web here, and then builds on. It does seem. No, wait, that was the web. Yeah, this is web on Linux and Windows on Mac. But I think for the PC, for the desktop version, you just run Odin run dot to run this. I'm not sure. We can try it. We can go here. We can go. Let's go. Let's go. I'm interested now. I did it. I tried this before. Now we're just off topic completely here. That's how we like it. Web GPU. There's also an SDL3 example here, but we'll just use this one. Odin run dot. Boop. Worked. This is web GPU inside GLFW. And then we can do build web.bat. I have no idea if this will work. It didn't have echo off, but it did lots of funny things. Maybe it's this one. Yeah, it built this stuff. It has a little index.html wrapper that loads the WASM file, but if you run that, there's your triangle. Same rendering code. So do go look at that one, and then you can go read about GLFW if you want to use web GPU on both desktop and web. There was something, because I like that they're shipping on plenty of platforms, but I dread the idea of having to revert transpile shaders to well, this will just give you web, something with a web browser or desktop, right? It won't give you a PlayStation, or like if you want if you want to support many platforms, then you need to have multiple render backends probably. That's just how it is. And then you get into having transpiling of shaders, or rewrite. Either you can rewrite them or transpile them. There's, these days you can use DXC to output DirectX intermediate representation, or what's it called? It's called something. SPUR-V. You can output, and then you can use something like shade. Is it called SPUR-V cross or something? Maybe it's this one. Yeah, I think it's this one. It can. I'm not sure it's this one. Maybe it is. Convert SPUR-V to GLSL, MSL, HLSL, and stuff. But if you're on a weird like PlayStation platform, you might still need to make your own like PlayStation uses GNM, which is another rendering library, for example. So, but yeah, it's probably not that bad, because maybe you are done with the game and you have all your shaders done, and you just need to, like, maybe you don't have that much shader code, so you can just sit there and by hand just translate it. Shaka got a weird question. If I create a dynamic array in a proc and return a full slice of it, can the caller delete a slice? Yes, that's actually something that can happen. I can explain why. What you're asking is, I will explain why. No, we just gone off topic here. It's fine. We try to do something, but I'm not very good at staying on topic. Playground. This is where I test random shit. So we have a proc. That returns a slice of ints, and it makes a r is a dynamic array of int, and then we append to r5, and we append 7, and then we call a proc a proc mt.println slc. Let's see, I don't make it wrong here. We need to return. So we return a slice of the whole thing. This is like a window that looks into a slice. Is like, it looks into it looks into all the data of this dynamic array without representing its dynamic array. It's just like a generic array kind of thing. And then we can print it here, you see, and then we can actually run delete slice. And the reason this works is if we look at delete, what it does. If we look at what delete does, I think actually I talk about this in the Odin book as well. I think I say that you can delete at some point. There's just an example where I do this. The reason this works is if you look at delete dynamic array, what it does, it will mem-free with size, and it says it just takes the raw data of the array. And the raw data of an array, raw data is a procedure that fetches the data field inside it. So raw dynamic array. So you have these, right? What this raw data thing here does is that it just fetches this pointer here, essentially, plus puts in any type information. So if you have a dynamic array of integers, then it will be a pointer to an integer. It's a pointer to where the data starts. That will work, and you see for the slice, if you make a slice that start at the beginning of it, the data will be the same. It will be the same pointer. So that's why this works. It will work even if you as long as you return a slice that, like, if you look at, we can do this. Look, lots of 7s like that. We can return this one. Okay, we can print the printer to make sure that didn't crash. That didn't crash. It's fine to return something that ends before. But if we do this, you see, it died. because now what it needs to do is free the pointer. The allocation is essentially the pointer to the first element. So the allocation that the dynamic array has, that it stores, starts at the first element, and this will return the second element and up to the fourth element, and then this thing is going to try to deallocate, because we can look at the delete slice here. It will raw data of the array, which is a slice in this case. So then this data here, this pointer points to the second element of the dynamic array, but the thing that had allocated was actually start at the first element. So yeah, that doesn't work. So you need to take a bit of care with this. But if you have a procedure where you want to allocate, but you want to return a slice because you no longer you just wanted to add things dynamically and then return a slice, then you can do that. There was some other consideration here. What if, and if you use a different allocator, then you need to specify it, because a funny thing about dynamic arrays is that they store their allocator, right? Dynamic arrays do that because append, you can reuse an allocator several times because you can grow. Slices are made once, like you can allocate a slice, but it's made once. So they don't store the allocator because it doesn't need to grow in that way. So you would need to take care and pass the same, the correct allocator. That the allocation is based on the pointer, like with this kind of heap allocators that works like this. That's usually how it just works. Like in C, for example, in C you would, so I can get this right, then you would be like int numbers equals malloc size of int times 10. Then you get this pointer here is just the pointer to the first to where they start, but it actually has room for 10 of these, and then you free it with 3 numbers and you just send in the pointer to it. So this is the same thing, it's just with some dressed up a bit with these types and stuff. Anyways, let's see. I'm pretty sure I have something. I want to double check if I have that in the book. I have my super secret hidden project file. I think delete No, it's fine. These streams I don't need to perfectly solve. It's fine that we look at random stuff. I'm just curious now. Maybe I removed that. No, here it is. This section, comparison to dynamic allocated fixed arrays, because I talk at some point in the book about these, how you can new a fixed array, and it's like if you new a fixed array and then you slice the whole thing, what's the difference between dynamically allocating a slice? And it turns out it's almost no difference at all. And it's not the dynamic example here, but in this case, this allocation here, you would delete with 3 this one. But if you make it into a slice like this, then you can actually use delete, because you still go to just and take the pointer of the first thing and go. But and it says that this only works if your slice starts the first index of the fixed array. If it doesn't, then delete will try to deallocate using the wrong pointer, and your program may crash. Yeah, so it's essentially the same thing. Right, anyways. Like I said, if anyone wants to get the book, right now you should, because it's on 25% discount. for like 24 hours, for maybe 25 more hours until and sometime tomorrow. I think when it's based on my local time zone, so this is almost 1 hour to midnight. Thank you for reading my book, Shaka. Yeah, if you read the book before touching any Odin, like the book is supposed to be possible to read, to learn it. I think, however, maybe the absolute best learning experience you would have is like if you poke around a bit with the language and then you read it. I mean, it's like that with everything, right? If you try to read, I talked about on the Odin server yesterday, I think, about how if you read, wait. If you, for example, if you read this book, Real-Time Rendering, then maybe this is mirrored. Why the hell is everything mirrored? I don't like mirrored things. I'm gonna unmirror that. Anyways, doesn't matter that much. If you read Real-Time Rendering, then if you first, just look up how to do Blinn-Phong shading, and you do that. If you learn that first, this book is gonna be much easier to read. If you have the intuition for how to write the shaders. If you read this first, then it's gonna be harder. But you can of course read it first and then do some shaders and then read it again. But I actually read it the first time when I already poked around with shaders, and then all the maths around, like all the fancy equations they put in there, look a lot more scary than they need to be. But yeah, I wonder if I can flip my little I realized that my picture transform flip horizontal. Wow, look now. Wow. Look, it's not flipped anymore. This book, very good. It's very thick. I have small notes in it even. What do we have? What do we have here? I put a note on what? I put a note on special matrix transforms and operations. What does it say? Arbitrary axis rotation. Very interesting. And this is in the maths chapters. It's a cool book. Let's stop. So let's try to get this working now. Sorry anyone who was watching for me to actually implement font stash, and then I did 500 other things. Why do I get two up? Wait, that's what I'm concerned about here. First I get this. Oh, thank you, Ogre and Roger. Let's just recreate the texture each time for now. Yeah. Oh, thank you, Hugo. Shark asks, is the coincidence that you and Ginger Bill use Sublime? It is a coincidence. But I think it comes from both being... I don't know where it comes from, but I worked with engine programming at places like, I worked at a company called BitSquid, where people like used using Sublime, and I programmed in C++ and in Lua and stuff, and I think I used Visual Studio then as well for the C++ stuff, but I've just had many workplaces where I used it. And then with Odin, I was like, no, it's, you know, I don't need a big IDE for this because it's sort of more minimalistic language. So and then I just stuck with that. I think I use slightly more tool. I use OLS. Bill doesn't use OLS. He doesn't believe in getting help. No, I'm just being silly. he thinks he doesn't feel like he needs it. Let's see here. Let's see if we can create a texture. Load texture from bytes. Okay, so here is a procedure to load texture from bytes. Question is, what do we do here now? And I think this is probably gonna be in the wrong format and everything. I mean, also Sublime is a pretty Windowsy thing. You can use it on, I mean, you can use it on Linux and Mac. Maybe it's a bit Macy also, because I guess it comes a bit from the TextMate kind of. It's sort of like, I also used to use Sublime when I did like web development many years ago. Because first I used TextMate on Mac and then I used Sublime. Let's look inside the context of font stash, because there we have the texture data. Let's just, like, whenever this happens, we don't care about the font dirty rect. We just take the whole texture data. It's bytes. This is going to be good. Yeah. So we take the texture data and we say that s.fs.width, s.fs.height, and then it wants a pixel format. And here I think we're gonna run into some trouble, because I think, unless I'm wrong, this will be like get glyph, and to say it in a sort of Swedish with dialect, glyph. Make glyph bit more, yeah, so use stbtt, and I think that would be a single 8-bit texture, which I should support, but last time I checked it didn't work. I think it's RGB R8 norm. What does that mean? Norm. Oh, let's see. Font atlas. We can do like this. S.font. We're just gonna leak memory here for now. Then we need to go into our state thingy here, and we say font atlas is a texture, right? That crashed. Sad. Can I just try this? Log.info len of s.fs.texture data. See what that says. Oh yeah. Of course, it's 20. I think I told it to be 1024 by 1024. It crashes currently. I mean, I don't use this yet. Okay, let's look in the debugger. But you know, I like Sublime. At the end of the day, if I had something that was like Sublime but also had everything that Rad debugger does built in, then I would use that. But all the programs that built-in debuggers are always problematic. Bam. Wow, we went deep into the... I mean, you Rad debugger is not available on Linux yet, no. I mean, you do a hotkey in Sublime that launches debug session with Rad attached. But yeah. Mim says pitch. What's the format of this texture? Texture desk. What's the format? R8U norm. Is that? Let's look at the DXGI format. When I make weird sounds like that, it's because misspell things, but just be happy. R8 U norm. Unsigned normalized integer form. Yeah, I'm thinking, shouldn't it be R8U int? That's what am I silly here? Because I'm not, the thing with me making this is that I'm not the most skilled render programmer, but I get by. That's also a reason why I do 2D. Let's see here. If I use a byte U8, should it be U norm? What is a normalized? Is it U norm or U int? 8-bit unsigned normalized integer. What is a normalized integer? What do you mean? It can be between 0 and 1? Integer. I'm not sure. Let's try this. And then I add it to my pixel format. R8. I've written my pixel formats like this. This is something people can have opinions on if they like, because yeah, it's an int. What the heck? I think it's maybe something how the render API is supposed to treat it. If it's supposed to make it, maybe it's that it's supposed to take the value between 0 and 255 and then make it into a floating point between 0 and 1 on the inside in the shader. But that's usually the layout of the... No, maybe that's what it does. Maybe that's what it does. So I think it's how it treats it, because what might happen now if I use this is that inside the shader, this is my inkling that inside the shader it will be presented in the wrong way. Well, anyways, we can try that though. So this one also, here is my little function to calculate the size of things. Still, and then we go here. We say U int. It's the crashes, but why does it crash though? That's also a good question. Because it's somewhere far inside Direct 3D where it tries to create a texture. You see, since it crashes inside Direct 3D. I can't get an error really on what happened. I can get like a validation error. So it's probably... Wait, this looks wrong. Texture data, width times 4. This looks like a... Is this a little assumption that happened here sometime? Let's go back there. Texture data. Width times 4. This sounds wrong. Yeah, that sounds like exactly what I thought then. Thank you. That it's... Yeah, exactly. That assumes. So I just need to get size, pixel size, pixel format size, format, like that. Yeah, no, I didn't crash. That was that. And I think, like the chat is saying here, we should use unorm. Oh, norm. Right? And then we have the font atlas loaded, probably, most likely. Then we can go back to draw text here and try to replace our little thing here. There might be a little catch-22 here. Like, we're gonna fix this nicer. We're gonna make it so that we update the same texture. Right now it might not work correctly on the first frame or something because it's gonna update the atlas several times. But that's you know, it's better to get started with something than just then I can solve that later. That's what I'm trying to say. Let's see here. Draw texture EX font atlas source test. Source is weird in the font atlas. Do we take this thing? Let me check here something. Log.info q. I want to see. Yeah. I should disable the rendering completely there. Oh, thank you, Gcoder, about me. Yeah, I'm taking with care of the examples repository in Odin. They made me into I was given access to write access to it, so I can pull requests and commit to the repository. And I've moved things around, and I've done pull requests where I've tried to get people to add examples. I've taken some requests. I haven't looked at it that much recently, but it's looking better now than a while ago. It got a bit forgotten. I think what we need, so this is the world position, or sort of the position based on this, and then this is where it should end, and then the S stuff is the where in the these are the UV coordinates, one could say. So they normalize between 1 and 0 inside the quad, inside the atlas. The problem we have is that I don't do it that way. I do the raylib style where I always talk in pixel coordinates, which, yeah. So to get to that, I think R here is okay. We can probably do like 0, 0, 10, 10. Just put something random for now, just to get this rendering. Color, DST, blah blah blah. You see, there it's drawing something. Now we just need to... It was red also there. I think it's because of something with my... I think it's how it maps up the... I need to modify something in how it maps up the texture, but... SRC... So SRC then will be a rectangle. And it will be the same thing as here, just this will be S and T. So all the X's becomes S, and all these Y's becomes T's. But we need to... I'm just gonna hack in this here for now. X times 1 over... No, times s.font atlas dot width. I think this is how it should be to get it from UV coordinates into... maybe. Right, we're not using SRC yet. We need to do that too. Hello P, there you go. Ta-da! That comes from Font Stash now. Cool. It's red because there's no alpha. I'm not exactly sure because it comes in as, if you look at our shader, let's try to fix that. You know, it comes in as a normal color here. So if you want to, there's a problem here, right, with draw calls that we won't be able to use this text in the same draw call as our game graphics, even though, you know, if the game graphics all uses one atlas and this is one atlas, there's still two separate textures. So they will break a draw call. You can, of course, maybe we can somehow make it so that they share the same atlas. However, then, you know, your library must start being aware of atlases, which is I don't know if that's within the scope of it. Like maybe we could have some atlas, like some way to be like, oh, add thing to atlas, and then it does that. But I think that that's something you want to do offline anyways. Like maybe we could have a concept of an atlas that is pre-made. You know, I mean offline as in made, done before the game starts. Because you can, if you have all the textures in a folder, then you can make an atlas out of them, and you don't have to do that while your program is running. But the font stuff, maybe you have to do, unless you scan all the text, that could possibly happen. But regardless, what I'm thinking here, I think there is something. But what happens here is that when it samples a texture that has just a red channel, then all the other channels become black. Yeah, I could use two shaders, but then again, I think what Raylib does is that it takes the font here and just expands it to use RGBA 8. It's a bit more wasteful of memory, but yeah. I could use two shaders, but I'm thinking if... Yeah, I'm trying to use Font Stash to have font rendering in my lib. I'm just experimenting, see if it's a good fit. I mean, this looks pretty nice to me, but I mean, except the blackness and stuff. But So it has alpha 255 everywhere. Essentially. I would like it to... There is sometimes something called like... there is, maybe it's in the render backend here. Maybe we can do a little funny thing, because we have a sampler. Don't we? Doesn't the is it the sampler that does this? By the way, I don't. No. There's like something called like a there's like a map. At least I think it's in Vulkan. There was like some kind of mapping you could use that. What was it called? Or is it the blend state? It's sort of how it fills out extra info when it... There is some kind of mapping you can do. Oh well. We could just expand this to use RGBA. Someone says you could use the RG and B channels to encode free font atlases in the same texture. Yeah, you could. Then you need some addition. You need an extra vertex attribute that's 0, 1, 2, or 3 that says which one is this, so it can get the correct thing out of there. But that's possible. Yeah, if someone knows what I mean. I think... Yeah, you can... Darlene is probably talking bindless textures. Yeah, we're not going to do bindless stuff here because we don't really need it for a 2D thing like... Well, yeah, for me it will complicate things probably. Maybe. Damn it, what is it called? It's like a... Maybe it was in D3D12 that I saw it. Maybe it's not available. Maybe I shouldn't rely on it, but... It's essentially... Like you can say 4 numbers and it says like which channel to pick, like if you only get red, if you only get a texture with red channel, what do you do for the other channels? And I can say, should they be 0? Should they be based on some other channel? Should they just have a maxed out value and stuff? There is something like that. But I don't remember the name. Like it's like texture. This is... You just need to set alpha to the red channel. But yeah, but there is only one channel. How do I set alpha to the red channel? And also it shouldn't be red, of course, because it should treat... Yeah, I don't want, without changing the shader, this is a little... There is something you can do that... Let me check if it was in Direct 3D 12, maybe I saw this. Shader resource view dimensions. Yeah, the shader for component mapping. That's what I'm talking about. Maybe it's a Direct 3D 12 thing. So maybe we can't use it anyways, but it's a U32 where you say maybe just an example of it. Well, there's this funny define here, but what you essentially can say is like, for each component, should that component come from that component or from something else? So you can say, I think you just do like, I think you just or some stuff together here and or something. So you can say that the red comes from red, but the green comes from red, and the blue comes from red, and then you can say the alpha comes from red, or the alpha is always 1 or 0. So you can, this stuff you can use to do that. But that's a DX12 thing, so no can do. So either we use a different shader. Yeah, I want to map the A channel and also map the green and blue channel. So inside the same, if you use the same shader as the normal texture stuff, you would be able to just sample this, and even though our texture is just a single red channel, it will get like, so if you have a fully lit red pixel, you would get like, instead of getting like 1 0 0 1, you would get like 1 1 1 1, and then also if you're currently, also what we get, if it's 0 is currently we're getting this. But then you will also get like this when it's 0, because it will base the alpha on that as well, and you will get a white, completely white thing with a single channel. But I don't think you can do this in DX11. But it was good that I shader component. What's this? No. Is the nah. Oh well, whatever. It's not a big deal. I'll think about it. What we'll do for now is to expand the texture, which I already do in. People are gonna like scream at me. I already have the code to fix this. I was just stubborn. Because down here in load default font, which was I used before, I had this. So here I can just do this. Expanded pixels is an array of colors of size blah 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 times s.fs.height blah blah blah, and we can use the frame allocator, which is sort of like a temp allocator, but I use it clears automatically within the library, so I don't use the temp allocator. It's actually a temp allocator, but it's not the same temp allocator as the user uses, so I don't write stuff into the user's temp allocator because they might not expect that. 255p. So this is just always does completely white, and then just modifies the alpha, and then you do RGBA 8 normalized. Yep. And then you say here, you just say expanded pixels. And here you must say s.fs.pix. What was it? Texture data. Expanded pix. And then maybe you need to transmute that or reinterpret it, not transmute it. There's a difference between slice.reinterpret and slice.transmute. No, transmute, then it will just think that the whole slice, the memory of the raw slice itself is something else. But what slice reinterpret does is that it, given the contents of the slice itself, it will make it like if you store one U32 and you reinterpret it as a slice of U8, then you will go from 1 to 4 number of items. This will work. Yeah, there you go. Hello B. Good. Cool. Wow, here is pixely stuff. Let's see. Yeah, minimal. That works fine. The snake game here, I think is a bit pixely. That's probably I guess there's only, of course this is not done yet. I mean, I need a texture update here, right? Right now we're just wasting, like you get, it's screaming at me because I'm leaking textures and blah, 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 blah. But that's we can do. I will not do that tonight, but we will be able to do that. Load texture from bytes. I'm thinking draw text. Do I do something weird here maybe? Also this stuff is a bit unfortunate, that I'm a bit worried about floating point precision, funny stuff here. What I might do is, we'll see, I might just do my own little port of, oh, go with, I might do my own little port of this library. We'll see. We have draw text, blah, blah, blah. Snake. Why is it so? Why is it like that? Wait, I think it's because, no, I do set size here. Is it perhaps some kind of, let me try doing this times 2. What happens then? So if I do, maybe it's like a DPI scaling thing. Like maybe these guys to be halved or something. Times 2 there and half that. Everything went funny. I'm not sure. I have to investigate this, the blurriness of it. I'm like, why is it? What do I do in init now again here? Top left. Oh well, I don't know. The cool thing now, if I go to minimal, is that I can type, you know, any Unicode letter like this. Some Swedish letter. We can type some of these. So these are already, you know, outside ASCII because it's UTF-8. Let's get. I have some in my book. I have some UTF-8 examples in the newly rewritten strings chapter that just came out in the new update. I have lots of things on UTF-8. I have this little. This one is also available on my blog. If you want to read that, or how to manually decode UTF-8, there is a on zelinsky.se. Here, it's actually taken from the book. But anyways, here is a Chinese character. This one will probably won't work right now because our font is not gonna have this glyph. I think. Yeah. So it's just gonna be like, we can do hello up, and then there is supposed to be a Chinese Mao there, which means cat in Chinese, but it doesn't render it because it can't get, this font doesn't contain it. So what do we do then? Well, we load a font that contains Chinese characters is one simple way. And then of course, if you made a game that does these things, you would need to somehow, you know, manage these things. Like, oh, now I need to draw Chinese, so maybe I need another font. I don't know. I don't know exactly how you would do it, but it's probably possible to figure out. I had another font. I'm putting this off screen because I'm gonna try look for it. I want some my Chinese font. No. You made the I18N stuff. I haven't actually looked at that translation stuff, how it would work, but it sounds cool. Well done. Yeah, I need a font. So we can dig into my Windows folder here. Here are some fonts, and then there is one called is this Han Traditional? No. Slim Sun Regular. Is this? Wait. Han Simplified. That sounds good. Can I find this one? Copy. It's a TTC. Is that just like a zip or something? It was not. I think I've done this before. TTC is like a group. I don't think. Let's use a shady online transcoder. I've used this one before. It's fine. It will tell you the font. I think it's like, yeah. So you see, it's two different ones. STB-TTF can load it. All right, I didn't know that. I thought it didn't work for some reason. I think I tested it, and it didn't work. But maybe I did something wrong. Because then we can just do this, Sims and TTC. Ha! Assertion failed in true type. Whoa. It died. And this happened to me as well when I tried to use TTC with You may have to give an index of which file to load. Okay, but then I need to go into here. In font, is it the data? Yeah, I haven't gotten it to load it before. Just get number of, well, it looks like it. Get font offset for index. Yeah, this thing doesn't just support. Well, since it's whatever, let's do this. Num font equals stupid. Let's just change the thing. Let's see if we can get it to work. Get number of fonts. Wait, we don't need to know that. We just need to. This thing here, I think, is just making assumptions. We just need to do this. Right? Get for font offset for index. Then we need to pass this. Why is it res.loaded? Why doesn't this just use raw data? Right? And then 0. And then font offset of the first one. I don't care which one we get, but we do that. Bam. Here you go. There's a bug in the font stash. I mean, bug on bug. It should. This will always work for any TTF. But anyways, there's your Mao. It's a bit offset. But yeah, I think I'm not exactly sure how to do that properly, like how to position the text yet. I haven't figured that out. But yeah. So what we can do then is, I mean, we can write anything in Chinese here. Not that I can write in Chinese, but I can copy. I have some more here. We can take some Chinese. This Xiao Mao Mi means small, tiny small cat. Xiao Mao Mi, and then we could maybe put in some Korean. I'm just gonna. Here's Annyeong Haseyo. Oh, you want a bibimbap? Whatever. We just put some Korean in there. But now this is not gonna work because this font doesn't have Korean. So aha, okay, so you can combine. I didn't know that. That's cool. You can. Okay, let's try that. I haven't looked enough at the Simpson font data. And then we do roboto. Put TTF like that. That's cool. And go to init. And then we add Simpson. Font data. Whatever. But you need to run set font, right? That seems to set the font. Or should I just not do that? And just... Doesn't seem to work. I'm afraid it doesn't seem to work. Well, that's disappointing. Maybe your cool font stash does that. And my vendor font stash is not as cool as yours. Well, maybe it is the point, but you can still use multiple fonts. I mean, you can set the font and be like... But you can detect if it's something, if it's in the range of some other language, I guess, or something. I don't know. Add fallback font. Maybe it's this. What's this? Base. Okay. Yeah, maybe. Okay, so we set Roboto. But they feel a bit like Simpson font. Wait, this other way around. Roboto font. And then we do fs.set fallback font. Fs, and then we be like... this is... Oh, there was reset. Wappa wappa. So for Roboto font, we set Simpson as a fallback. Ta-da! So now it's using two different fonts at once. But this is not the most robust way to do it. I would like to have a list of like, here are my 10 fonts. You try drawing with it. But I guess maybe you have two fonts that contain like some Chinese, but you want to use, like maybe you have a font that contains maybe you want to pick and choose different parts of it somehow. So maybe you still need to detect the code point ranges and like for this range, use this one. But I don't know. It feels a bit like it should be able to like look through the font and find all the code page ranges and be like, if it's in this range, use this one. Ta-da. But yeah. That's good. Our Korean doesn't work because we do not have any Korean. What font we can use for Korean then? I don't even have one. That's traditional Chinese. Hebrew. That's Korean. Take that one. Put it here. Malgun. They're not, these fonts are down here, loaded down here at the bottom of the file for no good reason. It's just how it happened. Font. Malgun. So then we'll set the fallback for Simpson to we'll do a little loop here. Was it not? Oh, it was TTF. Oh, it didn't work. So sad. This is not working properly. It's missing a letter in Chinese there, I think. Yeah, it's missing my mi there because the Korean font had that. Wait, maybe I should have... But can you only have one fallback? Can you have multiple? Add fallback font. Right, so what I should do, of course, I'm silly. Sorry, of course I should just do this way. Now it would work, probably. Yay! So we're mixing English, Swedish, because of the because that's a 2 byte. It's encoded as 2 bytes in UTF-8. The code point is something like, I don't know what the code point is, but... And then we have Chinese using Simsan and Korean using Malgun. Yeah, there's probably smarter ways to do this than this. What's happening here? I have a feeling that I might start like this. And then... maybe I will port the font stash stuff also. Because like I said, it's 1,000 lines. It's probably doing some stuff that I don't need. So maybe it will be a few hundred lines. Is there some extra files in here? No, these don't really do anything. So you know, I could probably do this quite. It should be doable. Yeah, I can fork it, or I just... Yeah, fork it, source, or like port it slightly. I put it in a separate file, put in my own naming convention on things, and like I don't need these callbacks. I like polling things. Lots of things here I probably don't need. But yeah. I guess what you could do is like have a generic idea of a game atlas. Now I'm back to that again. So you construct your font, but then you can insert game graphics into it as well. And then also, you know, I guess font stash doesn't support multiple, like if this gets too small, it just grows, I guess. But, you know, you can't have like if you have an absolutely huge amount of text in a game and you have several languages, you might need multiple atlases, maybe. And it only seems to have one atlas. At least that's my impression of this. That might be a problem. But, you know. It's a later problem. Okay, cool. We got that. I'm gonna remove these two because I don't want to put those big fonts into my like you see these are like 13 and 17 megabytes because it turns out there's a lot of Chinese characters. While the Roboto is 155. Oh well. We remove those. Just put these here for now. These are my... And though this... Comment out. I will add some kind of nice way to do font loading later. So you load a font from disk when you need. What's happening here? This is my work in progress. So now we need to think a bit. I'm just going to comment this out for now, this whole load default font. Because I don't think I need it. Then I don't need true type. That I can just delete. Load default font. Okay. Because I haven't decided on if this is what I want to do. Because, you know, having a whole font baking thing in there is, of course, it's quite a lot of implicit behavior on what happens. Like in Raylib, you used to say load font, and then you specify which code points do you want, and it sort of just goes and does that. It's sort of a thin wrapper on top of STB true type. This is much more, but I feel like it's what you want, and if I just make it nice, then you can easily adapt it or switch that. Maybe I could have I was thinking I could have two different modes. One where you provide a pre-made, one where you say that, hey, I want you do the Raylib. You can do the Raylib thing where you provide a pre-made atlas, or you tell it to make an atlas using specifically these glyphs, and it doesn't involve font stash at all, which might be what you want for when you ship a game. Maybe exactly all the glyphs and stuff. Okay, cool. There's still something with the snake game where the text is blurry. I'm trying to see, this is all. Why is it like that? Is it this one was not. What was the size of this originally? Look at this. This is my piece of crap backup software that when I executable is regenerated quickly. It's just like, I don't know what to do. I need to never use pcloud. It's very bad for anything that's not like slowly copy pasting files. Just delete those. I'm gonna replace it someday soon, but I have not have the energy to. What's it called? Snake. I wasn't snake. Git diff snake.odin. Okay, there is no changes. Whatever. I thought I had changed something in here, but I hadn't. It's probably, yes, I know why. There's a zoom here. But isn't don't I draw? No, I set camera. No, yeah, okay, yeah. It's drawn using a zoom. Yeah, I don't use the. No, I use GitHub for my code. I want a backup of like all photos and like the current state of the computer. So I paid for that stuff, but it's not very good. But yeah. I would need something that works like with the file system on a file system level, not via any Git. Like it's like all my photos, all the documents, everything should be. Maybe I should just use Dropbox or something instead. I don't know if that's any good. I was just trying to use something that I think I was a bit scared of things hosted in the US, so I tried pcloud because it was hosted in like Germany or something. But I don't know. Yeah, so the problem here is the zoom. Anyways. The font size here kind of needs to be... Okay, I'm just going to do a little hack here for now. Batch camera dot... Let's see, is... Okay. And then you need to set the size here. And then dst dot, you need to divide it by this. So I'm not saying this is how it's supposed to be done. This is just, this will not work. All of it needs to be. Well, not really. Okay, now it's crisp and looks okay. It's just in the wrong place. Well, am I silly? Isn't it just because... Wait a minute. Never mind this plus here. That's irrelevant for now. I mean, the zoom... The zoom... It's a bit weird. I want it to generate the font size bigger, but then pretend that the zoom doesn't exist, sort of. Because that's what scaling up means, in a sense. I have to think about this. It's gonna be very clear when I get to it. But scale. There is a scale thing here. Iter.scale. Maybe I can do like iter.scale. Maybe we should 1 over zoom or something here. We'll see. Ugh. Is there a value on this already? That looks 4 times too big. Okay, maybe that's not at all. I'm just poking around with the wrong crap. But it looked a bit like what I wanted. So there's a scale. Okay, it only seems to use it for the advance. Anyways, I have to... This is not terribly... it's of course important, but I will get it correctly. I will ignore it for a bit. Let's ignore that. So one cool thing that I've done is this. I have this old prototype, right? That's sitting somewhere here. This one. This one uses Carl. I've moved this one to use Carl 2D. So let's see if it's this silly game here. But it has a little editor that crashed. I think it tried to draw some text there. Let's see what error was again. Index 84. Line 660. Ah, I have not implemented measure text. That was funny. Of course not. And I think text bounds. This is what you want. Maybe this is the one that someone said was broken. We'll see. Here I manually did it before. Bounds. Font stash dot text bounds s dot font stash text is text. How does it know? Oh yeah, the size is set. I don't like this stateful stuff here. Why can't this be like something you send in the text bounds? Maybe I'm ignorant of something, but then we just return b dot minec. Okay, so it's b. Okay, b dot 3 minus b2 minus b0 and then b. What's it called? 3 minus b1. Can't type. And then you delete this stuff and hope for the best. Oh yeah, it's good if you send in the font size when you're trying to tell it to set the font size. Okay, let's go back to our Ouija game here. Now it kind of works. I mean, the text is in the wrong place, but that might just be because of this stupid plus font size here. I moved up. Maybe font plus font size divided by 2 is correct, so it's centered. Or maybe everything is wrong. And then my so see, this is now this text down here in my little editor that is a bit too big. Uses that stuff. Editor text size is 32. Maybe there is a little problem here called, what happens if I put 16? I didn't like that. My hot reload in this game is a bit wonky since okay, that's a bit too small. Maybe it should be like 24. I think there might be some scaling funny thing happening here. Oh, that looks more like it. Anyways, you see it's measuring correctly everything there. So because what it measures is how big this thing should be. So this is just so you can place some tiles in the game, stuff like that. Like that. Then you can jump, stand on it. Bye bye, Thunder. Have a nice time. Thanks for joining. You should be able to go between here, I think, if you... it's 2 pixel perfect. Oh, then that, no, whatever. Oh well. that works now. So we have some font stash stuff. I'm not sure if I think maybe this would be a nice addition to the thing, but we will. I will think about it. I have all the other old code left. That's why I commented it out. I didn't delete it. Well, you could. I mean, I have version control, so I could just delete it. But you know. Okay, cool. There's some Rayleigh ports here. One called 2D camera, and everything is very tiny here. But at least you see this text here. This is a Rayleigh example that I ported. See you, Chameleon. Thanks for joining. I'm also gonna go to bed now. It's midnight. I am going to commit this to the Carl2D repository. Let's see what we changed here today. So this is just me changing a demo. I import font stash. I do some initting. I comment out the default loading of shader. That's fine. I create the font atlas. Here I will update it instead of recreate it, because currently I'm leaking atlases. That's not good. But yeah. And for people who don't really understand what the use of this is also that, you know, like I could suddenly type a character. I could copy paste in a character into an input text box, and it would add that one when it's trying to draw it to the atlas and stuff. So you know, it's sort of dynamic in that sense that it can build it as it goes. Let's see here. Draw text is completely redone. This is not the best thing ever currently, but we'll get there. I don't like that it multiplies the UVs like that, but that's just how it goes right now. Yeah, I'm still using font stash. So far it works. Got this text here to render. I don't know about the offsets, like you talked about some offsets and stuff. I'll look into the details of if it's problematic. If it is problematic, like if I have problems, I mean, I already fixed one bug in it. There was you couldn't load TTC files. You could only load TTF files, because in add font, I think here it didn't get the font offset of the first one. It just used the memory straight up, which doesn't work for a TTC. So I changed this and added this line. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see if it works nicely. But it's easy enough for me to change things in it. This maybe I should pull a request into the library in the vendor folder. Because many of these Chinese fonts, I tested with Chinese text and it works fine. But it didn't load that one came out as a TTC, not a TTF, a collection of fonts. And it blew up, even though it should work. Okay, so we have draw text, and then we added the R8 uint. I don't know if I should maybe remove that again, because it can stay there. And then I commented out the old stuff, and then I fixed this bug here where we used the wrong size for the pixels. It's all good. Font stash initial experiments. What do we say about that? Still needs to update atlas instead of recreate it. There we go. I mean, the reason I can just commit it like that even if it's broken is because this library is not. Yeah, here I was looking for Korean. I was, it's not ready for use yet, so I can break things right now. if anyone in the chat wants to have a look, it's on github.com/Carl-Zielinski/Carl2D, like this. It's all here. Not ready for use, but you can have a look, poke around. But I will change stuff, so if you use this in your game, then your game will suddenly break because I changed something. And currently only works on Windows, but I have things in place to do render backends in other. Of course, I will have probably this render backend interface here. It might be thinking a bit too much in Windows terms, so in Direct 3D11 terms. So we'll see. There might be slight changes to the window interface and the render backend interface as we go. That's that. And like this says on this text here, last day to get the Odin book on 25% sale. In like 23 hours or something, the sale ends. So you can go to Odin book, and it is I get very nice reviews for it. I really like all the. I think Shaka was in the chat. I put the review here, and something else here, like here's someone who used Go a lot, but this book helped them transition to from garbage collected languages to a non-garbage collected language like Odin, to something where you do manual memory management. But yeah, on my store it's on sale. Yeah. And the links to Carl2D and the book are also in the description of the video, and there's also a link to my Discord server that you can join and talk about Odin, Cat and Onion, the Odin book, Carl2D, and all that stuff, and post your own stuff as well. Okay, that's that. Thanks for watching. Have a nice day. Bye bye.